Hey everybody, welcome back to Mask of the Slasher. Today we're going to be doing a special episode in which we have titled Dawn of the Dutch.
Dun dun dun.
The reason we are doing this episode and the reason for the fun title is in honor of my sister's birthday. Whee! Her birthday is actually January 21st, which is the day we're filming this. You will see it the following day, but it is nevertheless her birthday right now. Now, the fun part about this, the reason for the title, is that also because she lives in the Netherlands now. Her and her family moved there about, I don't know, 3-ish years ago, something like that. You know, years start to blend together after a while. So,
Indeed.
Her husband and her 2 youngest kids went there, flew during the pandemic, unfortunately.
Yeah. With
3 cats, which is crazy. Strictly because she just loved it there and was ready to move out of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Her oldest son decided to stay in Iowa. We don't know why. No, we know why. It's because he decided to marry the love of his life and continue with his schooling and become a teacher. And then the other 2 kids are still in college in the Netherlands.
Yep.
So they're younger. It's okay.
Yeah.
They're not like 40 in college or anything like that. So, you know, it's fine.
They're 40, living on their mom's couch.
Yeah, it's cool.
No big deal.
Yeah. Making wooden shoes.
Whittling wood.
So, I decided to ask my sister a few questions. So I'm going to kind of go through those and explain as I go what her answers are, and we're going to go into each thing within that question.
Right.
Each of her responses. So, just to start this off, Dawn and I she is 4 years older than me. So, her and I were fairly close. I mean, we still, you know, wanted to kill each other most of the time, but we were fairly close, and we both went to my dad's house every other weekend and enjoyed the illegal HBO and watched a lot of the same movies. Our favorite movies back then were Weird Science, Goonies, and Strange Brew. We watched these movies a lot. And then E.T. and Star Wars. So that was kind of our jam when we were little. So as we got older, of course, then, you know, horror started coming in. We both watched Poltergeist together at some point. I don't know when. But the movie that she first actually really remembers is Nightmare on Elm Street. When I asked her this question, what her first movie was that she remembers, her story was exactly the same as mine. I find this suspicious. I tried to confirm what she had said with my mom, but I don't know, they're not helpful, either one of them. So basically what she said is that she watched it. It had to have been the same day that I watched it, which I don't remember that, at a babysitter's house, and that she also slept in bed with my mom for weeks, which is what happened to me. Now, if this was the case, then more than likely Dawn made me sleep on the floor. She would have never let me sleep in the same bed with them. It's not like it was a big bed to begin with, but that's how she rolls. So, so needless to say, that was where it kind of started off. As we got older, Dawn was in high school, and I was in 5th or 6th grade at that point, and she got introduced to things like Rocky Horror Picture Show and Skinny Puppy and 9 Inch Nails, hence the shirt, and just a different type of lifestyle, which ultimately rubbed off on me. So I got to see Rocky Horror Picture Show before it was legal to see on TV and all that fun stuff, and did not know what to think of it. But it was good times. The next question I asked her is, what do you like or not like in horror? And it was kind of funny because it came down to the same answers that Michelle and Scott gave.
Right.
And I was like, gosh, these people would like each other.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was basically having a backstory.
Right.
It needed to have something to it, not just going and killing people
right.
and whatever. And it probably was that because of seeing Nightmare on Elm Street that it turned her in the opposite direction.
Right. And your sister also, like, reads, you know, like however many millions of books a year.
Yes.
So I can see her wanting movies that have a very rich plot.
Yeah. The woman can read a couple books within a week. So if given the time and energy, she will do it. So yeah, she's got a big brain.
Yeah.
You know, she's a smart one. So yeah. So the movies that she gave as examples for this, I picked a couple of each thing out of her questions. The first one was The Conjuring that came out in 2013. Josh and I are huge fans of this movie and all of the ones that came after it.
Yeah.
Because of the story that is behind it, which is based off of a true story from the demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, demonologist and psychic, I should say.
Right.
And some of their investigations and how they had helped families. So that's what this particular movie was based off of. If you haven't seen it, you should have by now. It's a good movie.
Right. And what's interesting also is that when we were talking with Scott and Michelle in that episode, as they started to answer our questions, you immediately went to The Conjuring. And now we're kind of along the same lines as far as that line of questioning, and here your sister brings up The Conjuring.
I think it really comes back to the idea that Dawn was never into, going in a deep dive into horror movies. These are what I like to refer to, how I picture things in my brain, is like surface movies. Like, these are the ones that are just floating on top of the surface, anybody can get to.
Right.
And The Conjuring was such a big deal when it came out. They did such a good job with it, and it really stuck with you. And I think that's part of it. And it was readily available.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, because it was kind of bigger names and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, the next movie she said was The Ring that came out in 2003, and for us horror fans, we know that this was an adaptation from a Japanese version of The Ring. Once again, if you haven't seen it,
you great,
should
excellent
see it.
Movie. Like, I'm always super apprehensive when they try to westernize these movies,
Yeah.
But I actually thought they did a pretty good job with The Ring. Like, I was pleasantly surprised by it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the same goes for Ju-on. She was a fan of Ju-on as well, which I was surprised that she even watched the Japanese version of it. Maybe it's because she had been cursed by having to watch the English version of it, which that
one's not good.
Oh, isn't it Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Yeah, she's in it.
Ugh, it's horrible. What a horrible casting.
It's been so long, like, I barely remember it. I do need to revisit it just because I'm curious about it after all these years. I love Ju-on.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
It's an amazing movie.
One of the best horror movies, period, not just Japanese horror or anything, but period, one of the best, I think, especially as far as ghost stories and things like that.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous movie, so.
Yeah, so those movies had a good backstory to them. It wasn't just, I'm going to jump out and scare you.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it really comes from. I remember Dawn reading Dracula when we were in high school, and that's when Bram Stoker's Dracula came out. And it was just... It was a life-changing thing for her. Yeah. That and Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah, good one.
Which she did try to get into the extras casting. It just didn't happen. Yeah.
Wow.
Because it was filmed partially in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So, but it's usually based off of something. There's not just, like I said, it's not just jump scares. It's not just cheap thrills.
Yeah.
It's something, I'm all for cheap thrills.
Yeah, and Bram Stoker's Dracula, not only, obviously it's based on the book, but as far as not being only an excellent plot, but like the costumes are fantastic in that movie. The cinematography, the performances are all really good.
Yeah, we recently, just by chance on YouTube, the making of that particular movie came up. And I love watching behind-the-scenes stuff. It doesn't really matter who it is or what it is. I like watching it, but especially how movies are made. The next question I asked her was basically, what movies do you like that may or may not be considered horror? And this one's a little comical, in my opinion, but it technically says comedy and horror when it's categorized. And it was the movie from 1985 called Once Bitten that Jim Carrey was in. And we loved watching this movie. It was one of those that was on HBO all the time. And I haven't watched it in years, so I can't give you any details. I don't really remember much about it.
I don't either.
But it was a really funny and good movie, and I'm pretty sure it's one of the first Jim Carrey movies, but people don't really talk about it.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't Jim Carrey, Carrey. He wasn't in living color Jim Carrey.
Right.
So, yeah. And then the other movie, which Josh and I know very well because we love it very much, is The Frighteners, that was made in 1996.
Yes.
With the amazing Michael J. Fox.
Yes.
This movie, if you haven't watched it, this is also good for kids, for anybody asking.
Yeah, this would be a good one.
Yeah, we should have mentioned it in the other video, but The Frighteners is also comedy horror-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really borderline on that. I feel like it's kind of in the same category as Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
You know, but it's basically a man who he's essentially a medium.
Yeah.
And he can see spirits that are around him and talk to them, and he uses them because he's a scam artist.
Yeah.
And gets people to call up and go, oh, I need some, help getting these ghosts out of my house. But it's his friends. It's his ghosts that are doing this. And it's just a good movie.
Yeah, great movie.
And
underrated.
It's so
I'm surprised that movie didn't do very well.
I am too, because it was good.
I mean, it kind of takes some weird turns towards the end, I guess. Plot-wise, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it was directed by Peter Jackson.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So... anyway, it's a good movie, but that's a couple of her instances where she was saying, it's kind of borderline. It's definitely borderline. The next thing I asked was, what were your top 3 horror movies? And it's going to be The Conjuring. She actually gave me 5. It's The Conjuring, Sleepy Hollow from 1999, Mothman Prophecies from 2002, and The Lost Boys from 1987, and then, like I said, Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Right.
So, obviously, we've already talked about The Conjuring. Sleepy Hollow I thought was stupid. Sorry, Dawn.
I don't remember it. I think I've seen it once, and I don't remember it at all.
Well, and it's sad because it's a Tim Burton movie.
Right.
But I felt like it was trying too hard. It was just trying to be too spooky.
Yeah.
So, but the reason why she likes this movie is because her and I grew up watching the cartoon The Adventures of Ichabod Crane from Disney. And Josh and I still watch it.
Amazing.
Yeah. We still watch it every year for Halloween or just for the fun of it. Because it has Mr. Toad attached to it as well, if you want to know. And there's some spooky stuff in Mr. Toad. There's that bartender. What's his
Mr.
name?
Winky.
Mr. Winky. Ooh, why?
Yeah.
Why? So, but that's where that basically started, is that because we watched that when we were kids, and we had like a record that had the songs on it and stuff, and so it's good stuff.
It is.
But she mentioned the Mothman Prophecies. And I didn't watch this movie until I met Josh. Probably because I was just like, oh, this is going to just be a corny, like, mystery thing with Richard Gere. And I'm like, meh.
Yeah.
But
I don't like Richard Gere, and I watched this movie just because I super am into anything with, like, cryptids or, legends or things, things like that. And I could care less about Richard Gere, but I freaking love this movie so much.
Yeah. Well, and it's technically based off of a true story.
Yeah.
And that's goes back to Dawn's standards of having to have some sort of backstory to it. Josh and I did watch this incredibly fantastic documentary about the Mothman prophecy, well, the Mothman theories and whatever. And there was, if we can find the footage, we'll put it up.
Yeah.
But it was, I don't even know why they were.
Well, they were talking about how somebody had seen it from their car or something, and they were trying to like recreate the Mothman sighting, I believe, is what they were doing.
And it was a plywood cutout with 2 bicycle reflectors for eyes. And
it's so funny.
We laughed and laughed and then shut it off.
Yeah,
We were just like, this is so stupid. You're just taking the good out of it. It's kind of like all the Bigfoot people.
Yeah, if I can ever find it again, I'm almost tempted to watch it, the whole thing, just to see how much more absurd it gets, because where do you go after you've made a plywood cutout Mothman and stuck reflectors to it?
Well, hopefully they painted it for Christmas and put it in their front yard.
Hopefully,
I don't know.
or Halloween.
Yeah,
one of the two.
It's so weird. The Lost Boys is kind of cool for us because we grew up in Northern California in the Bay Area, and this movie was filmed in Santa Cruz. And Santa Cruz was not something we went to a lot because it wasn't the easiest thing to get to, in our opinion, because it was windy mountains and my mom didn't want to be near a bunch of crowds and dumb people. So, but that's where it was at the beach boardwalk. And also, if you ever see the movie Us by Jordan Peele, that is also at the beach boardwalk.
Right.
Fun fact. Anyway, so that one, it was a great movie.
Yeah.
Still love watching this movie. Yeah. Still love the Coreys.
Yeah.
You know, and Don really wanted an Alaskan Malamute after watching this movie. But that's a lot of the reason. I mean, aside from the vampire stuff and the romanticism of it, it was also the fact that it was done in Santa Cruz.
Right.
Which is just kind of cool.
It is cool.
So,
shout out to sexy sax man Tim Capello too.
Oh yes. Oh god, you know he still does like signings and dresses up.
I know, he plays live. He does live shows. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
That's definitely on my checklist. I mean, I've met Robert Englund. I've met Tony Todd. You know, these are like bucket list people.
Right.
But
Tim
sexy
Capello.
sax man.
Oh yeah.
That's the shiz right there. One of the questions I asked her, and it was a long shot, but I just said, "Hey, have you watched any Dutch horror?" And she said no. That was her response, was no. And then we thought about it and we looked it up and we were like, also no.
Yeah, we didn't really find any.
No, it was really it was stuff like the windmills.
Oh.
You know, like people being murdered by windmills.
Oh, right.
And like tulips and I don't know. It was stupid. So apparently there is the original version of the movie The Vanishing. There was an American-made version of this with Sandra Bullock later on that both Don and I had watched. Mm-hmm. So we didn't realize until recently that the original version was Dutch.
Right.
Or that there was an original version for that matter.
Yeah.
We just happened to see it on an interview with Conan O'Brien and Jordan Peele, them talking about it. And then we just didn't want to pay to watch it, so we didn't do it. There you go. So the last part of this is I asked her, what did she show her kids when they were younger? Now, I will say that my sister is a lot more liberal about things, and her kids are very mature.
Right.
And she always explains things to them. She exposed them to some stuff, and when they were very little, is when the show Ghost Hunters came out.
Oh, yeah. Which
was probably one of the first original, like, paranormal ghost hunting shows, I think.
Yeah.
It's still the best one.
Oh, by far.
And we also always watch those really stupid countdown things of the scariest places. And it'd be like on Discovery Channel around Halloween every year. I've watched these since. They're really dumb. But anyway, she would watch it. The kids were there. They watched it. And that's how it was. Aiden, the oldest, he even dressed up as one of the ghost hunters.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he wore the taps. It was really cute. So... but I individually asked the kids what they remember and what they like now, seeing as how they're all in their 20s, which is weird. But I went ahead and asked because it's fun, you know. Aiden, the oldest, he said his first movies that he remembers was Gremlins and Children of the Corn. And I find that funny because they lived in Iowa at the time that he watched that. Because he would have been too little to watch it when they still lived in California. Right. So, and it just goes back to that whole thing where, you know, Don told me about Malachi being at the
Right.
corn, you know, and all of that. So it just made me laugh. And then, but what I remember, though, is that these kids were obsessed with watching Zombieland.
Oh, yeah.
You know how kids just put things on repeat and just keep watching them and watching, driving the parents nuts?
Yep.
Zombieland was it.
Right.
Both him and his brother Ethan loved that movie. Kira just went along for the ride. She was little. She was little and cute, and she was cool with everything, so it was fine. But now, as an adult, Aiden, the movies that he listed off that he likes is The Blair Witch Project, Antlers, the Nun movies, Lights Out, The Pyramid, and As Above, So Below. We've seen most of these.
Yeah.
Never even heard of The Pyramid, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that one. I like Lights Out a lot, actually.
Lights Out was
I
really
thought that was a
good.
really good movie, and not one that a lot of people talk about, but it had a pretty cool, unique concept, and just really a well-done movie.
It definitely had that boogeyman factor to
Yeah,
it,
for sure.
which freaked me out because I still don't like the Lights Out situation and just that turning off and
Yeah.
And they had ghost posters in the background on the
Oh,
wall. Remember,
yeah,
in her apartment, she
yeah.
had some cool posters.
Yeah, that's true.
So we were like, all
Yeah.
right, go metal.
That's right.
Ethan, one of his first movies that he remembers is Gremlins, and it scared the bejesus out of him. But so did The Mask with Jim Carrey.
Which is weird.
It really scared him, apparently, and I don't remember... I was never around to see this reaction, but it was cute and funny,
Right.
you know. The ironic thing about Ethan, though, is that he was always the one to draw these horribly violent scenes.
Yeah.
One in particular, was he blowing somebody
Yeah,
up?
somebody was getting blown up, and they're going, oh, shit.
Yeah, there was like a little...
word balloon.
Yeah, word balloon with, oh shit, with like a bunch of eyes.
Oh, so funny.
And then when I watched them that one summer and they decided to do a body outline on the driveway, on a slanted driveway so everybody could see it, and then he had like blood shooting out of the side of the head, and
So funny.
And so Ethan's gone in a different direction. I've always said that he could have been my child. He's so much like me. So that was pretty awesome. His favorites right now, of course, Zombieland. Still, yeah. He really liked the Cabinet of Curiosity series, which was really good.
Yeah, it was very good.
We have not finished it all.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well,
but,
some were better than others.
Yeah. Sometimes,
I felt like the good ones were really good, but it was also kind of uneven in that respect.
It was. But I was happy, and I asked him if he's seen Pan's Labyrinth yet, and he's not, but he wants to see it. I may be bringing it over. Who knows? And then what is this movie?
Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's based on the chapter in Dracula where he's on the ship from Transylvania to England.
Oh, we talked about this movie.
Yeah, basically about how Dracula preys on the crew of the ship, and they're trying to figure out what's going on.
I wanted to see it, and I totally forgot about it. Ethan recently just really got into reading all of the old classic books, and he just read Dracula. He's more on the darker side than the others. And then Kira, the youngest, of course, Zombieland and Ghost Hunters. She said that's what she remembers the most when she was little, but also, like, she had said she remembers Children of the Corn and stuff. But she's pretty young, you know, in consideration to her brother. But the movies that she likes now is Incantation, As Above, So Below, the Conjuring series, and the Paranormal Activity series. So I thought that was pretty cool. You know, that she's kind of following in those footsteps.
Yeah.
And so they all have a really good base of
absolutely.
things. And as they get older, of course, there'll be more and more exposure. But I do remember when Aiden and his wife came to visit us, and we watched Nightmare on Elm Street together because they just loved that movie.
Yeah.
His wife has really good taste, too. Now, here's one thing. I just want to say, they all liked Hereditary. Josh doesn't like Hereditary.
I'm on the hated Hereditary, loved Midsummer camp.
Yeah, it's either a Midsummer or Hereditary. It's one of the two. I actually liked both, to be honest with you. The Hereditary shocked me. I was very surprised. So was Midsummer. That shocked me, too.
Yeah.
It was very different. So, anyway, just kind of wrapping it up, but... Yeah. You know, we wanted to honor her. Happy birthday, Dawn.
Happy birthday!
Whee! Yay! Eventually, I'm going to get to the Netherlands to see her and her family. It'll happen at some point.
Bring me back some Heineken.
Heineken? I'm not going that
fresh from the brewery.
No, okay, yeah. I might go on the Heineken tour.
There you go.
You know, I'll bring you back some tulip bulbs. Anyway, so I think that's it. Right. I want to point out that we need more subscribers.
Yes. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy what we're doing.
It really, really, really helps us. The ratio of views to subscribers is quite wide right now. So if you like it and you keep returning, which we know how many of you return.
Yeah.
We can see those numbers. Then please subscribe. Yeah. We also want to hear from you. We want comments. We want anything. So we know if we're on the right path or if you want us to shut up. We just need to know.
Yep,
we
absolutely.
have to know one way or the other. Josh and I do plan on continuing to do this on a weekly basis for a while. We have a huge list of ideas for episodes coming up.
Oh, yeah.
And some pretty good ones. We try to be creative with our ideas.
Yeah, hopefully some surprises this year.
That might surprise and delight you.
Yes.
So, anyway, have a good week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.